Hello, learner. Welcome to Mr. Quakers Teaches. I am Mr. Quakers. In this lesson, I'll be analyzing Sampurna Chattarji's poem Boxes. Now, this poem is part of the 15 poems in your GCSE or IGCSE anthology that are supposed to study for the poetry components for your exams. Now, the thing is that I've analyzed all the 15 poems in your anthology, and it's now been made into a course. Now, the course contains analysis of each of the poems, so each of the 15 poems. You find sample of them on YouTube and in other of my social media handles. You also find predicted questions, because after studying the poems, it's useful that you look at predicted questions or questions that would come for each of the poems, and then try your hands for essay questions. Remember, the essay questions usually are graded over 25, so that's 25%. You need to know how to write the essay questions. Now, because of that, there are also sample A star or grade 9 essays as well that are part of the course. So it's part of the course. You can look at it, for example, and then sample it or mirror it, or mimic some of the things I've done, for example, in the introduction, in the body, how to use conjunctions in your essay, how to write the conclusion, to make sure that you get a very, very good grade. There's a way to it. There's a template or a way that you can present your essays. So, and the course is only £5 a month in subscription. So only £5 a month in subscription. Now, additionally, you can buy the entirety of the course for a year for £45 a year. That means you get to save £15 in subscription. So 3 months. That's 3 months free. So 5 months, £5 a month, or £45 a year. Now, additionally, we also provide tuition services as well for the other components of the literature. So the drama, the prose, the unseen paper, and also the poetry as well. So if you've listened to the analysis and you still need some help or some guidance here and there, we also provide tuition as well. Now, additionally, if you need tuition as well for any other of the services, so for example, you need help, for example, in English language, or you need help for math, sciences, we have teachers, very competent, experienced teachers that can provide assistance for you for history, sociology, geography. There's assistance, there's help that teachers can afford you to build your confidence and make sure that you ace the exams. I've taught people for the GCSE or IGCSE since 2008. So I know that when a student's confidence is built up, they can do way better than they normally do. In fact, I see that sometimes just building of confidence can push a student 2 grades up. That's what confidence can do, and that's what we do at Mr. Quakers Teaches. Now, additionally, if you want to reach out to me, you can send me an email at mrq@mrquakersteaches.com. That's mrq@mrquakersteaches.com, or you send me an email at mrquakersteaches@gmail.com, or you can just leave a comment on any of my social media handles where you find this analysis, and then I'll reach out to you and then see how we can help you. So remember, look at the description, and the links are there for the courses, for signing up for tuition, and for any other assistance that you need from us at Mr. Quakers Teaches. Let's begin the analysis. Now, let's start by speaking about the poets. So, Sampurna Chattarji was born in 1970 in Dessie, Ethiopia. So she's a poet, novelist, translator, and children's author who writes in English. Her 14 books include 5 poetry books, so we see the names there. And we're told that her poetry has been translated into multiple languages, and her children's fiction into Welsh and Icelandic. That tells you how prolific she is as a writer and how widespread her work has traveled. Now, Sampurna was the 2012 Charles Wallace Writer in Residence from India at the University of Kent, Canterbury. So she wrote Dirty Love, which was published by Penguin in 2013 in a collection of short stories about Bombay and then Mumbai. So we see that she's somewhere that's quite versatile in her approach to writing. Now, let's look at the poem. So this is how the poem appears. Boxes. Now, essentially, in terms of summary, this poem Boxes is about how people live very constricted, and very, small or compressed living in urban areas. And the speaker tells us about this woman who's living in a very cramped situation and tells us that, in fact, over time, the situation is going to get even worse. So let me begin my analysis by reading the poem Boxes by Sampurna Chattarji. Her balcony bears an orchid smuggled in a duffel bag from Singapore. Its roots cling to air. For 2 hours every morning, the harsh October sun turns tender at its leaves. 9 steps from door to balcony, and already she's a giant insect fretting in a jar. On one side of her one-room home, a stove where she cooks dal in an iron pan. The smell of food is good. Through the window bars, the sing-song of voices high then low in steady arcs. With his back to the wall, a husband, a giant stack of kilts, threatening to fall. Sleeping room only, a note on the door should have read, readying you for cramp. Fall in and kick off your shoes. Right angle to this corridor with a bed. Trains make tracks to unfamiliar sounding places, unhidden by her curtains. 2 giant black pigs lie dead or asleep in a dump. Every day the city grows taller, trampling underfoot students, wives, lovers, babies. The boxes grow smaller. The sea becomes a distant memory of lashing wave and neon, siren to 7 islands once. The sky strikes inland on giant stilts, unstoppable, shutting out the lights. Now, observe how the poem opens. It opens with this revelation that her balcony bears an orchid. So we see the use of the third person singular pronoun, her. That reveals that the speaker is, speaking about somebody. So that gives it a very, very gossipy tone, like a gossip about a female who has a single plant on a platform on the outside of a building. So that essentially is how the speaker opens this analysis to, the reader. Now, we also see the use of personification as well. The use of the word bears. So bears personifies the balcony and creates the impression that it is carrying a very heavy burden. If you're bearing something, it's something that is very heavy. And the fact that it is present continuous, because the use of the word bears is a present continuous tense, it's like something that is happening as the speaker is talking. That suggests that the speaker is narrating a life event to the reader. So it's like somebody seeing something and being on the phone or something and telling you in real time what is happening. Some sort of like a reporter of sorts. That's the importance of that word there, bears. Even though you see there's just a single word, but it tells us the tense in which the speaker is speaking. Then we see the use of the word smuggled. So smuggled creates the impression that the female persona, that's the her that we saw in the beginning or the first word of the poem, transported the orchid illegally. So she transported it illegally. So it means that she broke a rule to bring the orchid. Right? Now, the revelation in a duffel bag reveals where she hid the flower or how she got the flower into the house. So it wasn't something that she could hold for everybody to see. It was something that she had to hide. So the impression that is given is that there's a rule against having a plant in the place. So it's almost as if they have like this, lay down rule that we don't want any plant life here. And so this persona had to hide it and bring it. Then the first 2 words of the second line from Singapore reveals the source country of the plant, or where she brought the plant. So in essence, the speaker, by the very first sentence of the poem, is trying to tell us that this person who has the plant, this person who has the plant, did not even get the plant from the country where she lives. It is foreign. She brought it from some foreign land. That essentially is like the impression that is created. Now, in the second line, we see the use of the second personification. Remember, the word bears is the first personification, so bears an orchid. Now, the second personification is its roots cling to air. Now, that reveals how insecure the orchid is, the insecure situation of the orchid. And it also provides vivid visual imagery of its threadbare, very threadbare. So have like that kind of mind, a threadbare roots exposed to the elements, trying to survive. So it's like this. It's just trying to, cling to air. It's trying to hold on to air. Because if it doesn't, it would die. You see how powerfully the speaker uses language here to create effects. Now, in the next sentence, which is the third sentence, it says, for 2 hours every morning, the harsh October sun turns tender its leaves. So that shows that for a short period of time, there's a constantly unfavorable heat that burns. It burns. And the sun switches and treats the plants delicately. There's a small window where it's, even though it's burning, there's a small window that, it tries to help the plant a bit. But for the most part, the plant is being burned. So for 2 hours every morning, the harsh October sun turns tender on its leaves. So it's burning it over time. The plant is dying off. You see, so it's not in like the best condition to survive. Then the next detail is about what happens in the interior of the house. It says 9 steps from door to balcony. And so that tells us that, that's the space of the speaker's house. Of the persona's house. 9 steps from door to balcony. So if the door is there and the balcony is there, just take 9 steps and you'll be there. It tells you how small and constricted and restricted and restrictive the setting is. Just 9 steps from door to balcony. I mean, that's a very, very, very limited space. Then we see the use of a metaphor. So already she is a giant insect fretting in a jar. So that is the description of the persona. So the female persona that the speaker is talking about, she tells us that she behaves like a giant insect that is fretting in a jar. Now that suggests that the persona is a monster in terms of her size. That's the giant. She's a monster in size compared to the room. So it exposes the negative effects that the small space has had on her, and likens her reaction to her living condition to that of a large, trapped, panicky insect in a very enclosed space. So there's this sort of claustrophobic feel that the speaker is trying to present to the reader. That this person is in a very constricted space, and now she's fretting. When you fret, you move and shake, and you are all over the place. You're very restless. And that is the condition that this persona is because of the very constricted, restricted place where she lives. Remember, she's talking about how the condition that people live in the urban areas, in like cities. Now, let's look at the point of view of the poem. So we see the themes, the tone, and then the point of view. In terms of the themes of the poem, we see cramped living in urban areas is one of the themes. We see the absence of nature in urban jungles, the prevalence of noise and air pollution in urban areas, overcrowding and poor quality of life in cities, the worsening state of urban living. So those are like some of like the themes. I mean, think about other themes that you can see as well in the poem. Now, in terms of the tone of the poem, we see that the tone is quite gossipy. We also see the tone of pity, because we see that there's this sense of sympathy that the speaker has for the persona. It's also very critical of how people live in, the urban area. There's this, towards the end of the poem, there's this tone of resignation, as if, nothing can be done. Things are now bad to the extent that, it can no longer be redeemed. Then in terms of the point of view of the poem is recounted with a blend of the third person point of view, seen in the multiple references to the personas as her, she, and his. So her and she is reference to the female persona that we meet in the opening portions, and then his is a reference to her husband. Now, as the speaker speaks about their living condition, she also uses the second person point of view, seen in the word your, right? And you. So we see it here, readying you for camp, right? Which creates the impression that She's inviting the reader to have the experience, to come and see, to come and live. And so that is really important because it creates a very, very striking sense of place. So not only do we have like vivid visual imagery, auditory imagery of the noise, we also get olfactory imagery. And then there's this sense also of tactile imagery as well. I don't know if you see that. I think the smell of food is good. I think there's also this sense that we could have said, oh, there's gustatory imagery as well, because if the food is good, possibly it tastes good. So this poem essentially is, as the poet uses all the types of imagery to create a very, very striking sense of place for the reader by telling us about the persona and also inviting us to engage or experience what she's experiencing. In terms of the form and structure of the poem, which is very, very important that students speak about, I usually tell my students, when you're writing essays, you're given a question either in the GCSE, that's if you're writing it in the UK, or the IGCSE if you're writing it, in anywhere in the world. You have to write about the form and structure if you're looking to get either a grade 8, grade 9, or an A or an A star. The poem is a free verse poem. What does that mean? It means that the poem does not have a rhyme scheme. And I think the speaker uses the lack of rhyme scheme to show how, the absence of a rhythm to city living. It's unpredictable. One day you can be living in very, very good, slightly good condition, and then the condition can grow worse and worse and worse. It is unpredictable. The poem is 20 lines in total, broken into 4 quintets or 5-line stanzas. So each of the stanzas have 5 lines, right? Which creates the impression that the speaker is trying to visibly, visually or visibly create the upward growing city. So she wants us to have like this impression that, there are huge high-rise buildings. And look at the words. The words are quite crammed together. And I think she also does that because she wants to use the words on the page to mimic or recreate the cramped living condition of the personas. We also see the use of enjambment as well. So the flow of words from one line to the next without pause. So you see that the first line flows into the second. The second line, there's no full stop, it flows into the third. The third, there's no full stop, it flows into the fourth. The fourth, there's no full stop towards the end. So you see it flows. So we see the use of enjambment. And that, for me, I think is the speaker's way of showing an openness, eagerness to reveal details of the persona's living condition to the reader and also invite them to, have that same experience. So that is about the form and the structure of this poem. So here you have it. Sampurna Chattarji's poem Boxes has been made simple. Like I said in the opening of this analysis, this poem or this analysis is part of a course, where I've analyzed all the 15 poems in your GCSE or IGCSE anthology. It also has predicted IGCSE or GCSE questions and also sample A-star quality or grade 9 quality essays that you can mirror or mimic. And you can get access to it for only £5 a month. Or you can get access to it for a year for £45. That means you get to save 3 months in subscription. Now, additionally, we also provide tuition services as well. So tuition. So if you need help for the other components of the English literature, like the prose, the drama, the unseen paper, or you need help as well for the poetry, you can sign up at www.mrquakersteaches.com and then /sign up. Or additionally, if you need tuition in any of the other subjects, English language, geography, history, sociology, math, the sciences, you can again sign up, and then we build your confidence and help prepare you for the exam and make sure that you excel. So we have group sessions and one-on-one sessions as well. And the first lesson is a trial lesson, so it's free. So it means you just join the lesson. If you like it and it's something that works for you, you can continue. If not, with no questions asked, you can just look for other alternatives that can help prepare you for your exam. Now, additionally, if you have any other questions or you want to reach me directly, you can send me an email at mrq@mrquakersteaches.com. So you can send the email to Mr. Q@mrquakersteaches.com. You can see it nicely there on the page. Or you can also send me an email as mrquakersteaches@gmail.com. That is mrquakersteaches@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining this lesson. Until the next time we meet, bye bye.